Do you know there's greatness all around you, but you're going to have to ask for help. If you don't ask, you're not going to get it. Yesterday morning at 7 o'clock, I was on the phone with Mark Victor Hansen. He and Jack wrote the chicken soup books. And Mark's writing a new book on ask, he and his wife. And he was interviewing me. I was talking to him the day before. The day before was his birthday. He was 71. And I was saying, geez, how time flies. I was at his 50th birthday party. It was a big birthday party. I said, that was 21 years ago. It seemed like yesterday. But at any rate, that's what I was talking to him the day before yesterday, and he was telling me about doing this book. And he said, I want to interview for an hour or so. So I said, okay. So I said, have to be early. So we started at 7 o'clock. And what he was doing was asking me about ask. And I said, well, you know, it's a strange thing. He and Jack and somebody else, I forgot the other guy's name, had written a book one time, and in it one of them said, our problem is we don't ask for enough. And I agree with that. We don't. And we got talking about it, and I'd been thinking about it since the day before. You know, what role does ask play? And it takes you down some interesting paths. And I thought, when I was a young guy, I didn't ask for help. And I started to analyze that. I had such low self-esteem, I didn't think you'd help me if I did ask, probably. And because I had low self-esteem, I wouldn't ask. Well, this is written by Bob Richards, this page. Bob Richards was a great pole vaulter. And he's got some interesting advice on this page. If we're going to go after what we want, and this is going to be interesting as we get into this later tonight and tomorrow and next couple of days, we're going to go into an interesting place. We're going to go where you've never been. He said, there are many people who could be Olympic champions, All-Americans, who have never tried. He said, I'd estimate 5 million people who could have beaten me in the pole vault the year I won it, at least 5 million. Men who were stronger, bigger, faster than I was could have done it, but they never picked up a pole. They never made the feeble effort to pick their legs up off the ground trying to get over a bar. They didn't try. Well, of course, there's a lot fall into that category. A lot don't ask, but a lot don't try. He went on to point out there's greatness all around us. There's greatness all around you. Do you know, when I made a decision that I was going to do what Ray Stanford was the man told me, everything in my life started to change. I mean, and fast. The biggest thing I learned, though, in that first situation was to do exactly what they tell you. That's not easy to do. First of all, it probably goes counter to your paradigm. Your paradigm's trying to drive you one way, and somebody else is saying, no, don't do that, go the other way. All the evidence said you shouldn't do what they're telling you, but you got to do it. Well, I learned that with Ray. I was 26. Now, I remember back when I was probably around 30, I thought I was kind of old when I started to think. But actually, now when I look back, I realize how young I was. Well, then I got other mentors, Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. And I mean, they were giants. They started this industry in the recorded fashion, and they became my mentors. I was working with them one-on-one, but I always did exactly what they said. Every one of them, I would pick people who demonstrate by results they know what they're talking about, and I don't argue with them. I'll do exactly what they say. Now, a person that's been dead for a couple of thousand years could have a greater impact on your life than somebody that's sitting beside you today. They don't have to be alive. I follow a mentor now that's been gone for quite a number of years, close to 100 years. You see? But I'm doing exactly what he says. I may read the same page, I don't know, for a year, every day. I want to get into his energy. I want to see the way he sees. I want my perception to be the same as his. Now, Richard says greatness is all around us. It's easy to be great because great people will help you. I mean, that's huge. If you don't know that, let that burn right into your mind. It's easy to be great because great people are all around you and they will help you. He says, what's fantastic about all the conventions that I go to is that the greatness in the business will come out and they share their ideas, their methods, their techniques, and everything else. He said, I've seen the greatest salespeople open up and show young salespeople exactly how they did it. They don't hold back. I've also found it true in the world of sports. Well, when I was reading that about the salespeople, I remember being in Chicago with about 450 district agents from the Prudential. Yet they give out a trophy to the number one anything, the number one agent, number one manager, number one VP. They had 20,000 agents. The number one was Ron Sempertrain. Ron Sempertrain was number one out of 20,000 agents, and he was in this seminar. So when I found out in the seminar, I asked him if he'd stand up, and I said, can I ask you a couple of questions? I said, Ron, how many people in the last year have called you and asked if they could take you out and buy a breakfast or lunch that had maybe a half a dozen well-prepared questions? Not one. Not one. That didn't surprise me. I'd done some research on this, and what Richard's talking about, they're there, but people don't ask. If you want to get good at something, go to the best. Then do exactly what they tell you. He says, I'll never forget the time that I was trying to break Dutch Warmerdam's record. That was about a foot below his record. So I called him on the phone. I said, Dutch, can you help me? I seem to have leveled off and I can't get any higher. He said, sure, Bob. Come on up and visit and I'll give you all I've got. He said, I spent 3 days with Dutch, the greatest pole vaulter in the world. For 3 days, Dutch gave me everything that he'd seen. There were things that I was doing wrong and he corrected them. To make a long story short, I went up 8 inches. 8 inches must seem like an enormous height. He said, this great guy gave me the best that he had. I found that sports champions and heroes willingly do this just to help you because they're great. I like what John Wooden, what we've got here about him. He said that he's obligated to help somebody every day who has no chance of ever reciprocating. I see. Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich, chapter 14, it was leave everyone with the impression of increase. Doesn't matter who you come in contact with. Leave them with the impression of increase. Now let's think for a moment. Emerson was a pretty sharp guy, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said the law of cause and effect is the law of laws. Whatever you put out is going to come back. So you don't have to get it back from them. You're going to do things for people that'll never have the opportunity to do anything for you. What do you care? They're part of the universe. You put it in the universe will give it all back. It's a law. It has to come back. It's a law. These laws aren't man-made, so they can't be changed by man. Fall in love with the idea, leaving everyone with the impression of increase. Now, I said, when in college, working on his master's thesis on scouting and defense of football, George Allen wrote up a 30-page survey and sent it out to the great coaches in the country. 85% answered it completely. That's why they're great. Great people share. That's what made George Allen one of the greatest football coaches in the world. Great people will tell you their secrets. Look for them. Call them on the phone. Buy their books. Go where they are. Get around them. Talk to them. It's easy to be great when you're around great people. Richards was a great pole vaulter. He competed in 3 different Olympics. Last one he did was in Melbourne in 1956. I got a very dear friend who's gone now, Milt Campbell, who won the decathlon in Melbourne in 1956. There's great stories attached to him. I won't take the time out now, but I remember he knew exactly where he was going. Great people do that. They don't wonder whether they're going to reach the goal. They already know they're going to reach the goal. They're committed. Commitment's part of this program. And he and Rayford Johnson were running through the Olympic Village down in Melbourne, and Rayford says to Milt, he said, if Milt told me this once, he told me 1,000 times. He said, Milt, what do you think is going to happen? Milt said, Rayford, you've wasted your time coming here. This one's mine. See, he didn't wonder whether he was going to get to his target. He didn't wonder. Rayford obviously did, because he's asking Milt what's going to happen. Milt says, you've wasted your time. This one's mine. See, he knew. Well, when you set the goal, you got to know you're going to reach it. Now, there's a great story there about Richards asking Dutch Wormender Dam about helping him. Let's take a look. You got a clip there of Richards? Look at this. Now watch him turn and lift himself in the air. Amazing. Now listen to this for a moment. We're doing it again? Okay. There he goes. But he cleared it last time too, didn't he? Warmerdam eclipsed the 15-foot mark on April the 13th, 1940, when he was a 24-year-old high school mathematics teacher. Yet in the next 4 years, he broke the world outdoor record 6 more times and cleared 15 feet 43 times. That was Warmerdam. No one else made it 15 feet even once until Bob Richards in 1951 broke Warmerdam's record. He's the one that helped him. Now, this quote by Wooden is pretty powerful. I'm supposed to help someone every day who can never reciprocate. W. Clement Stone in 1970 was the wealthiest man in the United States. He built the combined insurance company. W. Clement Stone read The Magnificent Obsession one weekend and then made up his mind he would live by it. The Magnificent Obsession was written by a Christian minister. And it's a marvelous book. And the concept behind it is give, but don't let anybody know you've given it to them. Stone had programs going in prisons, all kinds of help all over the world. he gave and gave and gave. He became the wealthiest man in America. Now, this is a pretty good concept. It's one that we might all attempt to adopt. Do something for someone when you know they cannot return it. Just do it and let it go. Think. Thoughts, feelings, and actions. If you're sitting at home, I truly hope you've downloaded your book. There's people all over the world that are tuned into this, and they want to do the same thing you want to do. You want to do something extraordinary. You want to tap into that big part of you that you know is there, yet you just don't feel you're utilizing it properly. That's that God-given power within you. You see, our spiritual DNA is perfect. There's perfection within us. We've been taught that, but I don't know if we really understand it. Now, if you look on page 4, down to line 8, when we look back at our lives, honestly, we can see there were a number of defining moments that determined the quality of our life. I can, and I'm sure you can. You can look back and you'll see different points. Why did you accept the idea? Why did you do what you did? Why did you believe them? Why did you step out and bet on you? See, I think it's important that we do reflect back every now and then. The good part about looking into the past is we really just remember the good times. I mean, I could tell you some stories that would probably ruin the rest of the week for you of what happened in my life, but I don't want to spend any time looking at those. I don't remember them very often or very well, but there's a lot of good times. And man, I've had some phenomenal things happen. I had a bumper sticker for a long time. I was talking to somebody just in the last day about it. It said, expect a miracle. Expect a miracle. And that's really the way I sort of live. I expect miracles. Now, do you see, I don't think there's miracles as we think about them. I think miracle and luck and chance and those things. Voltaire said we invented those words to express known effects of unknown causes. So a miracle is really something so big, something so wonderful happening that you're at a loss to explain how it happened. You know, that was sort of like The Secret. That's the way The Secret was for me. It was like a miracle. I mean, God, there's 500 million people seeing that. So my face and my teaching is in front of 500 million people. And I didn't even try for that. They were looking for me. And we say it's a well-known fact that a high percentage of the population in every part of the world miss out on much of the goodness that could be theirs. Why? Why is that? Why do people play it safe? What percentage is there? We were raised with the idea it's better to be safe than sorry. That's a bunch of jazz. Yeah, it's not better to be safe than sorry at all. It's much better to be sorry if you're taking chances and getting out there and really finding out what you're capable of. You know, decision is a very big part of everything that our company teaches. Decision was a very big part of the Think and Grow Rich book. Napoleon Hill had 60 seconds to make a decision. But he didn't know that. He didn't know he only had 60 seconds. And Carnegie had asked him a question. He had 60 seconds to answer it. He answered it in about 25 seconds. Changed his life and the lives of millions of people because of the work it gave him. Well, right here between 17 and 23, put a circle around that paragraph. Make a decision now that in 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, when you look back at the time that you spent on this program, that this too will be a significant and pinnacle moment in your life up to this point. Make up your mind that that's what this particular seminar is going to be. Okay? Now, how can we do that? We can do that by really paying attention. How would we look back 5 years, 6 months, 2 years and say, boy, this was really an important thing. I'm so glad I went to that weekend. Now, that'll happen if you really let yourself get into this. You really let yourself get lost, okay? Now, you've probably been in a lot of seminars in the past and possibly have heard some of what you're going to hear here in this seminar. But you probably never had it, if you keep going here, in the context that it's going to be presented over the next couple of days. And it's like Scott Edwards there said, talking about perception, it's when you hear some information, some of it, well, I know that, I heard that before, but then when it's mixed with something else, you put the two different pieces of information together and everything seems to change. Your perception about the situation changes completely. This is why you want to be open, ready for the suggestions. In the inner circle, an interesting thing happened one day in an inner circle. It's a coaching program we have that I work with people on. And there's, every now and then we'll have a Q&A with the inner circle. And there's one person, he was on the Q&A and he said, you know, Bob, he said, I've always got questions. And he said, I think of these questions and I write them down because I want to remember them because I know you've got the answer for these questions that I'm thinking of. And then when I'm on the call, I go to ask the question and I know the answer. And I smiled and I said, that's really interesting. You know what's happening? You think that I'm going to get the answer. I'm the medium through which you get the answer. And so when you go to ask the question, when you're with me on the call, then you're receptive to the answer. You think I'm going to give it. Because you've moved into a receptive state, the answer is there. It was always there. You just weren't receptive. It was an interesting point that came out. Well, understand this. When you ask a question, the answer's already there. I have so many people come and say, you know, they'll explain something and say, what do you think I should do? I'll look at them and I'll say, you already know what you should do. You already know. What they're looking for is approval. See, the answers are always with us. We've got the answers. The trick is to act on them. Act on them. Now, consider for a moment all the special instruments and things we have that only a short time ago weren't even fantasies. I mean, we're moving at such a clip. I was saying something to somebody the other day. I said I'd never been in an Uber. And you talk about opportunities, and I heard about Uber when it first started. Dummy. Could have bought some nice stock there. Any rate, I've never been in one. And somebody said, how come? I said, I don't know. I just never have. Well, you know, there's all kinds of things around that are handy that we don't use. There's the biggest taxi company in the world and they don't own a car, you know. Think of all the things we've got at our disposal today. I mean, we got a lot of things that are sitting that we can use to change our life like that. Are we aware of them? Do we know how to use them? Are we taking advantage of everything that we've got? Understand the potential has always been here to create all these wonderful tools. It's always been here. The way to build one of these microphones that'll pick up and amplify my voice, even though there's no wires attached to it, the way to do this has always been here. But it's only recently we've been able to do it. Book on demand, printing on demand. You don't need to have thousands of books printed, you got to have one printed. Somebody got smart and got a new idea going. All the different things that we have, the phone that we've got. My God, it's a computer you can stick in your shirt pocket. All these things we've got have always been here. Where did they come from? They came from the marvelous mind of an individual that was looking at improving the quality of their life and the quality of other people's lives. So we want to get our mind into a very receptive state because we're going to be talking about going somewhere where we've never been. And to do that, it's not an easy thing to do because there's a little person lives inside of you that we call our paradigm, and it's going to try and talk you out of it. It doesn't want you to do it. It's going to hold you back. Well, I don't need to do that. I know this stuff. I know what the hell. I've studied it for a long time. What you want to do is take a look at what you're doing. I don't care how well you're doing. Take a look at it and say, is this really the best I can do? See, the truth is we don't know about the best we can do. It's so far beyond where we're living. And if we're going after it, that's living. And if we're not, that's dying. It's that simple. If you're going after something you already know how to get, you're not growing. And if you're not going after something you don't know how to get, you're probably dying. You're either going sideways or you're going backwards. I hope you enjoyed this video. We put a lot of good information up here, and it causes everything in your life to get better. If you'd like us to notify you every time we put a new video up, hit subscribe and then turn on notification. Check out all our videos, and we will notify you when we put a new one up.